Hi, I'm Pastor David Franklin, and we are talking with pastors about New Year's resolutions for the church. If the church were to make New Year's resolutions, what would we seek to improve? And I'm so glad to have Pastor Mackenzie Kambezi and Pastor Steve Carlson here with us. Please introduce yourself.
Pastor Mackenzie Kambezi of the Parkwood Toledo Church.
Okay, very good. And
Pastor Steve Carlson, work as the youth director for the Ohio Conference.
very good, very good. Well, I want to jump right into it. All of us were featured in an article in the Columbia Union Visitor, in the magazine there, about New Year's resolutions for the church. And I want to pick up with you, Pastor Mackenzie. You wrote this: every organization and club exists for its members. The church is the only organization that exists for non-members. It doesn't mean that we are not for members, but members need to know that it's about God reaching to non-members through them. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I appreciate that, Pastor Franklin. I think for me, that's the whole essence of the Great Commission. When you look at it, it's as soon as Christ touches my life, I have a responsibility of touching somebody else. I don't have to know it all. The little, whatever he has done for me, has to cause me to turn around, and then I don't become the focal point, but I reach out after souls as Christ came to do. So when I look at it as long as the church is still on that mission of understanding that Christ called me in just to be a channel through which he's going to reach the world, I just simply become his extension. So whatever Christ was doing as the will of his Father, and that's what he existed for, the church becomes, which is not focusing on the inside, but being healthy on the inside whilst focusing on the outside.
Well, see, there you've kind of parsed it there to say, you got to be healthy on the inside in order to reach outside. Because I know some church members would say, well, Pastor, there's some churches who all they care about is getting people in the door, and there's nothing happening within the church. So how do we balance the two?
I think that's a very important question. From my experience, here's what I've seen. I've noticed that the healthiness of the church becomes better as we focus on the outside. It's like parenting. Before you become a parent, you think you have more questions about being a father. You're asking, man, how am I going to do the diapers? How am I going to do this? But as you become a parent, you discover that resources become available. So as the church focuses on the mission, it's amazing how all our issues on the inside are minimized as we focus on the joy of bringing in the sheaves, if I may say.
Yes, you can. Steve,
Yeah.
jump in on this, man.
Everything that God gives us is meant to be passed on, and that's exactly what I think he was sharing. This idea that Christ loves us in order to love others. Christ forgives us so that we can forgive others. We're blessed monetarily so that we can use that as a resource to bless others around us. And it's this continual acknowledgement of what I've been given and what I can do with it. And as we use that to reach our community, to reach our neighbors, to reach anybody that's placed in our sphere of influence, we're blessed because of it. We're healthier because of it. And that only happens, I think, by experience. And absolutely agree with that.
So how do we begin to create churches that actually do this on a more regular basis or a more consistent basis, or I might even say on a more holistic or in a more holistic way, so that this is what a member understands their purpose to be? Not just to come in and warm a pew, not just to come in and hold a position in the church, but to actually be actively connected to and reaching out to those who are not members or those who are outside, not just not members of the church, but those who don't know Jesus. And maybe I just add tag on to that. Is there a difference? Is the goal to get them to be members? Is the goal to get them to be to know Jesus Christ?
I think that's a great question, because I think we're almost shifting into discipleship and membership.
Yes, yes.
Being a member does not, just switch over for me to say I'm a disciple. And I think that's one thing that we need to have in the church. They don't have to wait for the end of the year for you to be elected by the nominating committee for you to function. As soon as you have accepted him, you're open to function.
Yeah.
In other words, there's this open work where all of us are workers. And I think that's one thing, by God's grace, as we get our members not to think it's about them. That's when that statement comes into play. Because if I think it's about me, then I have this this expectation that the pastor is to visit me, the pastor is to come to me, and it's all about me. And before you know it, we have shifted the mission. It's no longer about those non-members, it's about us. Now people, and then the temptation to think the church has to be perfect before we go outside.
Yes.
Now we get into programs, but programs is not ministry. We are called into ministry, not into programs. We have more programs, more meetings, but fewer ministries. So I think that's when our members focus on reaching out non-members, everybody becomes a minister, of which you know, and I, and Pastor, you know that every member is a minister.
That's right.
So I don't have to wait for a nominated committee. I'm glad if I'm localized at the end of the year, but you know what? I am a ministry. Ministry is not what I do, it's who I am.
Right.
I'm becoming that which He wants me to be.
How do we help churches do this? What can we put into place to help individuals do this?
There are some churches who have gone so far, and I don't think there's very many of them that have done this, but there are some who equate membership to ministry involvement. And they say to be a member, choose your ministry, and that's part of being a part of the church. Is what am I going to contribute? What am I going to do? Research, as far as any of it that I've seen, has shown that the higher the percentage of involved laity in the church, the greater growth is experienced in a church. And so the more that, like Pastor Cambisi mentioned, the priesthood of all believers is fully utilized, and people see themselves as being ministers, as being able to take on ownership of their church and whatever gifts God's given them, that translates into growth, that translates into health, that translates into a better experience for everybody involved. And I don't know if you have to go so far as to say you can only be in my church if you choose a ministry, but nonetheless, I think the intent behind it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yes, just 10 seconds. Go ahead.
And I think, to be very frank with you, I think just building on what the pastor was saying, we need to allow our members to fail. The church is the only organization in the world made up of learners. No matter how long you've been in the church, you're ever learning. And we need to let our members know it's okay to fail. You get better as you exercise your spiritual gifts. You have never done this before. So what's happening now, you have got a group of folk who feel, well, I've done this before. I know how it is done. And that intimidates those who are coming in. That the pastor, we're telling them, man, you need to look for a ministry. And they're saying, Pastor, I want to, but where do I fit? I've never done this before. So we need to make it comfortable. People need to be comfortable to grow.
Yes,
there you
to
go.
grow in ministry.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to put a pin in it right there, but we're going to come back here in just a moment talking with pastors about making New Year's resolutions. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back.